You're listening to a Bored to Death solo cast, where one member of our clan talks TV shows and movies in easily digestible chunks.
Hello again, ladies and gentlemen, and other assorted gender assignations. Welcome to the Bored to Death Bingecasts solo cast, where one person talks TV shows and movies in easily digestible chunks. I'm Chris, and I am back with Star Trek Discovery Season 3, Episode 3, People of Earth. Now, where we last left off with the Discovery crew, they had crash-landed on a other planet. The ship has been badly damaged, internally. So after they crash land on the ship, the crew is working on getting everything repaired. Meanwhile, Saru and Tilly go out on a first contact mission to find out whether or not they can get someone's help to repair the ship. In this case, they need something to help restore the power inside the ship. Especially since dilithium is pretty much a rarity now. And I know that was something that, for the longest time, was something that actually had to be mined out of, like, asteroids, if I remember correctly. And so, that episode ended with Discovery being tractor beamed out of the ice that was surrounding it by the ship that Book and Michael are on. And now episode 3 is them going to Earth, and they are trying to find out what happened to Starfleet and the Federation. And so I am going to go ahead and binge this episode, and I will be right back.
While the binge is happening, thanks for listening to our podcast. Please give us a like and subscribe and spread the word. You can reach us on social media on Facebook or Twitter at BTD_Bingecast. The Bored to Death clan is part of the CKCC Radio podcast family, including J Bunny's Music Hub, the Race Nerd Podcast, Real Paranormal Talk, Ranking Tracks, Motivational Moves, Girls Who Like, and The Nerd Table. Please consider supporting CKCC Radio on Patreon. And now, the binge is done, so let's get to the discussion.
And I am back after finishing the binge for episode 3 of Star Trek Discovery, People of Earth. So this one is about the crew have finally managed to make it to Earth, and finding Michael, and now they show up to Earth by using the spore drive and basically choosing to fly from Saturn to Earth and trying to make it look like they don't have any dilithium, and are going to essentially tell whoever is in charge, hey, we were on a long mission, and we don't have any dilithium, and we basically got here via impulse drive only. So they get there, and they don't recognize anything that's surrounding Earth. Instead of there being, space dock and other ships and whatever, they see that there are these structures that are surrounding Earth that, if a ship approaches the planet, they open up and they create a force field around the planet. And they are greeted by not Starfleet, not the Federation, but by the United Earth Defense Force. And they tell Saru, you are using a older model ship that we don't really recognize, and can you explain this? And he says, Starfleet sent us on a mission centuries ago into parts unknown, and we came back, and we are the descendants of the original crew. And she says to Saru, like, oh, well, you honestly expect me to believe that you've managed to keep the same technology for the amount of time that you've been gone. And Saru said, he pulls the "if it ain't broke, don't fix it" motive on her. And she's like, all right, well, we're going to come on board to inspect your ship. Now, instead of him, the usual, like, okay, well, we'll meet you in the transporter room. No, they just beam right aboard. And so they are going around inspecting pretty much every part of this ship. And one of the members, who's the 16-year-old, is looking into the in main engineering where the spore drive is that their chief engineer hooks himself into. She's just looking around at it, going, "Oh, what is this? How does this work?" And she's very curious. And the entire time, he's going, "Stop touching my stuff." So her CO says, "We're not here to converse. We're not here to do anything other than inspect," which we are done with now. So they get done with their inspection, and she is very curious about the spore drive now. So she's next time we see her, she's sitting in the Jeffries tube, and she's looking at basically like a holographic display of how the spore drive works. And meanwhile, the ship's chief engineer is sitting outside the Jeffries tube, basically saying, "I know you're in there." So she climbs down, and he says, "What were you doing in there?" And she shows him the holographic display that she was looking at, and he goes, "Oh, that's the spore drive system," but it's actually a much longer name that he uses. Um, and he's like, "But nobody actually calls it that." Well, probably because it's too long of a name. So, uh, we uh, we also see that we also find out that Earth, the reason why it has this basically planetary shield around it, is because Earth is constantly being hit by these raiders, who are there for maybe whatever amount of dilithium is left on Earth. So we find out that um, Book and Michael, like when these raiders actually show up, they say that or Michael and Book decide to take off in his ship to go and meet with the head of these raiders, along with the entire stockpile of Discovery's dilithium. And so they go over, meet him, and tell him, like, look, you're gonna get shot down unless you lower your shields and let us come on board and give you this dilithium. So he accepts, and then the next scene we see is on the bridge of Discovery, where Discovery has been hit by one of these planetary defense platform torpedoes, which, because of how old Discovery's technology technically is in comparison to 32nd century technology, the shields get one hit from a torpedo and they go down, and the second torpedo that hits them pretty much heavily damages the ship. And they're saying, "Oh, well, we can't take another shot like that." And then Michael steps onto the bridge of Discovery with the head of these raiders. So she says to basically sit down with the United Earth Defense captain, and the basically the Discovery's conference room, kind of like the one that you see in the Enterprise D a lot in Next Generation. It's kind of like that room. So they're all talking, and Georgiou kind of gets a little frustrated because the diplomacy part's taking too long, so she goes over and takes the Raider captain's helmet off, and the helmet makes him not look human. It makes him look more like either an alien, or it kind of makes him look more like a robot of sorts. It's really kind of hard to say. You know, he could have been like a praying mantis looking bug alien species, kind of like the ones that we see as members of the Zindi and Enterprise. I was thinking something like that. Takes the helmet off, and it turns out he's actually human. And he goes on to explain that he and his people have been stranded essentially on Titan, and uh, says that the last time that they sent a ship out, the first time that they sent a ship out, because they lost all communication with Earth, they sent a ship out to go and find out what happened and to get help, and the ship was immediately destroyed. And she says, well, we weren't really taking our chances with anyone because we didn't know who was going to try to invade us or try to, essentially do anything bad to us. So she says, well, maybe now we can kind of open things up a little bit more. And it's a very diplomatic moment, which is what Michael and Saru were trying to go for, was because they're trying to essentially reestablish what Starfleet and the Federation stood for, which was doing things diplomatically instead of doing things through, declaring war or whatever and showing hostile intentions. So they decided to uh, work together, and the captain of the United Earth Defense Force allowed the Discovery crew to come down to Earth to visit. And the scene is Saru and Michael on the bridge of Discovery, and he says, "Are you sure you don't want to go down there?" She says, "No, I think I prefer the view from up here." And then it shows some of the bridge crew members, including Tilly, uh, essentially going where Starfleet headquarters was originally located in San Francisco. We all know the scene by the bridge. And she's like, she heads toward, they head towards this one specific spot, and it's a park, and it's where this tree is sitting. This tree is massive, like it is just huge. It's not tall, it's just really wide. And they said 900 years in the future, and this is the only thing left standing that we actually recognize. uh and the last time we sat here was 900 years ago. Tilly goes over, hugs the tree. They're all sitting down on the roots that are basically sticking out of the ground. And Saru contacts them, and Tilly goes, "Can we just get 5 more minutes?" He goes, "Well, we need to go and find this Starfleet admiral." Oh yeah, that's another thing I forgot to mention. This they find out that there's a basically someone who is the last Starfleet admiral, and they find out that this particular admiral is actually a Trill. Now, the Discovery crew, they apparently know who the Trills are, but the one thing that they never knew about was the symbiotic relationships that they had with the organization, the symbiont that lives inside of them, and how the symbionts keep the knowledge of all the previous hosts. So they said, well, this guy is probably going to know um, the history of, like what happened with the burn and everything, and he'll be able to fill us in because he carries the memories of all of the previous hosts. So that's basically what their current mission is now, to go and find this particular uh, admiral. So anyway, so the ending to the this episode is them sitting by the tree, and then um and Saru basically granting them the extra 5 minutes, and the camera pulling out, And you get to see San Francisco Bridge, the much more futuristic version of it, 900 years in the future, and the what once was Starfleet Academy. I don't know what it's called now. They didn't really specify what it's called now, but hopefully we'll find out in a later episode what it is. And that's essentially it. Really, that's all. A lot of the what happened in the episode, and this was a rather nice episode to see because you get to see the a little bit more of what Earth is like in this time. You also get to see uh, people from uh, Earth's future being curious about this technology from the 23rd and 24th century Earth, and one of them saying, "Oh, well, the fact that you're time travelers explains the reason why all this old technology still looks new." Because if you really think about it, if you go back to the episode for Enterprise called E Squared, where the Enterprise crew come across a much older, like 200 years from the past version of Enterprise that got sent backwards in time and became a generational ship, and the only original crew member was T'Pol, and how much different the ship looked. And whereas for this, it's just simply, well, they entered a wormhole, went 930 years into the future, and that's why everything still looks shiny on Discovery. So, I honestly, I don't really have any problems with Discovery. I think it's a good series. I am liking what they are doing with this. I'm also liking the fact that we're also getting a new one called Strange New Worlds at some point in time. That's going to be about Christopher Pike's time as the Enterprise's captain, which we only really got to see like once in the original series, and that was the original pilot. You don't really get to see him as the captain a whole lot in the J.J. Abrams movies because he was the captain for a total of 10 minutes in the 2009 film, and then after that it's Spock, and then for the rest of the film it's Kirk, and then for the next two movies it's Kirk all the way around. I don't know if you're really counting Beyond because the Enterprise got destroyed in that one. But yeah, I definitely recommend checking out the new episodes for Discovery. And if you don't have a CBS All Access account, definitely get one. And definitely check out the other Star Trek series that they have on there, like Picard and Lower Decks. Lower Decks is hilarious, by the way. And yes, every single joke that you've ever heard towards Star Trek, they pretty much use it in Lower Decks. And yes, they do make fun of the J.J. Abrams stuff. So yes, definitely check that out too. Definitely check out Discovery. Yeah, that's about it. And I will see you guys on the next binge. Bye.
Thanks for listening to the Bored to Death Bingecast. Be sure to check out our library of past podcasts via CKCC Radio or via our YouTube channel and give us a like and subscribe. We'll see you after our next binge.